Vaccines. This is something that has been hugely talked about surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic recently. People are constantly talking about it and when they're going to get their first or second dose. But perhaps what has caught most people by surprise is just how fast the COVID-19 vaccines were developed. I mean, doesn't it usually take multiple years? It's especially surreal when you compare the amount of time it took to develop COVID-19 vaccines with other diseases that have occurred in the past. For example, malaria, whose vaccine has been developing for around 30 years. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the reasons why COVID-19 vaccines were able to be developed so quickly. There are a few main reasons why the COVID-19 vaccines were able to be developed so quickly. Number 1, technology. Technological advancements and an increase in connectivity between countries meant that sharing information about the virus and vaccines was a lot quicker and could occur across multiple different social media platforms. For example, the publishing of the genome, which took place within a few days. This meant that vaccine developers all over the world were able to use this information to improve and develop their vaccine designs. Number 2, pre-existing knowledge. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, which I will link below, there have been other coronaviruses that have occurred in the past, and this includes MERS. This meant that vaccine developers already knew how to develop vaccines against coronaviruses. For example, there is the use of the adenoviral vector, ChAdOx1. Adenoviruses are essentially viruses that contain double-stranded DNA. They are often linked with diseases that affect the respiratory system. Because of the fact that their DNA is so compact, it makes them very good at being able to deliver different types of genes into the body. Before this can happen though, the gene that codes for the protein that allows the virus to replicate must first be removed. Then, the gene that codes for the antigen, in this case the spike protein, must be inserted into the DNA. The virus can then be injected into the body. The gene that codes for the antigen can then be expressed, producing these antigens, in this case being the spike proteins. This then leads to a T-cell response being stimulated. Number 3, global investment. Since COVID-19 is a pandemic, we all naturally want to get rid of it as quick as possible. So, global investment has played a huge role in this. This is because vaccine development is a very costly process. So, all of the global investment meant that vaccine development could be a lot quicker and multiple vaccine candidates could be developed. In addition, global investment meant that new manufacturing centers for vaccines could be built. This meant that vaccines would be available to people all over the world. Generally, when developing vaccines, you must first go through preclinical trials. This could be by testing on samples of human tissue or on animals. Then, there is the clinical trials, which take place in 3 phases. This is a very lengthy process, but this was not the case in the development of vaccines against COVID-19. I wonder, did this affect the safety of the vaccines? Well, the answer is no. Even though vaccine development did not take place in the same way as it would normally for COVID-19 vaccines, all of the phases necessary still did take place. For example, in clinical trials, which consist of 3 phases, some of the phases took place at the same time. In addition, a lot of the clinical trials would take place at the same time in different countries all over the world. I hope this video helped you to understand more about the reasons why COVID-19 vaccines were able to be developed so rapidly. Bye!